some of the more common retirement questions that financial planners get from their clients and prospects? Well, here to talk with me about that is Dana Anspach from Sensible Money. Dana, welcome.
Hi, Bob. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. This is part of a continuing series that we're doing, looking at the 10 most common retirement questions. We're on number 7, which happens to be, should I convert IRA assets into a Roth IRA? And if so, how much and when? Eager to learn more about that.
Yeah, that's one of the most frequently asked questions that we get on our webinars. So we look at the decision to convert traditional IRA to Roth IRA as a tax decision and a long-term strategic planning decision. Usually you have this opportunity, what we call the opportunity zone, between the age of 55 and 72, where you may be in a lower tax rate. Now, at 72, your required minimum distributions begin, and when those come out of your traditional retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, it's all taxable income. So if you're going to retire, let's say at 62, or some people retire at 55, you could have this window of time between your retirement date and age 72 where your tax rate is actually lower. And if you've been a great saver your whole life, you may have a ton of money in these tax deferred accounts, your 401ks and so on, that can create what we sometimes call a deferred tax bomb. So by using that opportunity zone time frame to take assets, you're going to pay tax on them as you take them out of the traditional pre-tax accounts, put them into a Roth where they will now grow tax-free. You can often level out your tax rate, and it can actually, when done correctly, in many household cases, help your savings last longer.
Right. So in terms of conversions, a lot of times people think of them as full conversions, but you can also do partial conversions too.
You can, and we like to look at how much you can convert to fill up a certain tax rate. Often we're saying, well, how much can I do to fill up the 22 or 24% tax rate? And we're coming to that number by looking at your estimated tax rate throughout your entire time horizon, now through life expectancy, and using the actual tax tables, including the preset increase that is scheduled to happen in 2026. So tax rates as it exists in law today are scheduled to revert to a higher set of rates in 2026, and that does give people an opportunity to potentially convert assets to Roth IRAs in the next few years at a lower tax rate than they may be in 2026 and beyond. So we'll map all of that out and figure out, well, how much can you convert? And that might entail doing, we've done Roth conversions as little as $10,000 in some years, and other clients we've done $120,000, and other clients we've done even more. It's the actual amount is very dependent on the circumstances for that household.
Right. And if you're at the lower end of the 22% or 24% bracket, you have some room there to fill up your bracket.
You do, and you also have to be careful. So the more taxable income you have, it impacts other factors of the tax code. So if you are within, Medicare age, so when you turn 65, they look at your tax return 2 years prior, and your modified adjusted gross income number will determine the amount of Medicare Part B premiums you pay. So if you were to do a large Roth IRA conversion at age 63, it can impact your Medicare premiums 2 years later. So there's other factors you have to think about. Rather than simply looking at the tax brackets, more taxable income can also sometimes push some of your capital gains into a higher tax rate. So you can't just blindly look at the tax rate and use that as the only factor. All of those things interact, and despite those interactions, in most of the scenarios we run, doing some Roth conversions still makes sense.
And what about for folks who still have a 401k and have the opportunity to do what's called a in-plan conversion?
Yeah, so while you're working, some 401k plans will allow you to take your pre-tax and convert it to the Roth option within the 401k plan. And there are cases where that makes sense. It, again, depends on where you're at in your career trajectory. If you are in your highest income earning years and you're likely in the highest tax rate that you're going to be throughout your lifetime, that is probably not the time to do Roth conversions. But some people scale down. They may go to, part-time or a modified schedule as they're nearing retirement. So that could give you a great opportunity to do in-plan Roth conversions. Or if you're newer in your career and you're expecting that your income's going to rise as you progress in your career, then while you're newer and in a lower tax rate, that could be a good opportunity opportunity to switch to Roth contributions or do an in-plan conversion if you've already made pre-tax contributions.
And for folks who are doing a Roth conversion, obviously it's a taxable event. Do you prefer to have the cash set aside to pay for those taxes, or to use the Roth, the IRA money to pay for the taxes?
Yeah, we prefer to have the tax set aside to pay the tax. So you want to have cash outside of those retirement account wrappers available to pay the extra tax on the Roth conversion. Now, there's, as always, a few exceptions to that. So sometimes with high net worth households where we know they're never going to spend all their retirement assets, in those cases, it can still make sense to do a Roth conversion and perhaps pay the tax with those pre-tax assets. But for the typical household, it makes sense to make sure you have the cash available outside.
So I think I've exhausted all the questions I've had about Roth conversions. Did we miss anything?
I don't think we missed anything. It sounds perhaps complex to some people. There aren't that many ways to grow money tax-free. So despite the complexity, I think it pays to take a look at it and use every opportunity you can to get money inside a Roth tax-free wrapper.